So welcome everyone from all over the world and all over our country. It's great to see so many folks here interested in starting your own eco challenge. I'm Leslie Scott. I am the founder of Reuseful, and we are a sustainability focused nonprofit organization based in Kansas City, Missouri. And for all of you, both in the US and beyond, there are two Kansas cities. So I am physically in Kansas City, Kansas right now, but we serve the whole metro area. And I'm just going to go over our site just really quickly because for most of you, this is not going to apply, but I did want to do it just in case anybody in the US is interested in having us maybe come to your community. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly. All right, so this is our website. For people who are local, if you're a charity partner and are interested in joining, you just click here, you sign up, you fill out a quick form, and then you are in our list of charity partners. And so if you're someone who wants to donate things, then you just click on donate. The form will just give you some selections to choose from. You can say what you have if you'd like to narrow it to a certain kind of organization. And then we're gonna just do that. And then you'll get a list of everyone who matches your search criteria. You can contact them through the website. If you click on their link, you get a bigger profile, more detailed. You can learn more about them. Sometimes, you may not necessarily think that you are going to bring your stuff there because maybe they're too far away, but they seem awesome. So there's a place for you to donate cash for people who use volunteers. Their volunteer link would be here too. You can contact them directly through our site to get the ball rolling on your donation. And in that way, you can make sure that they actually need the items that you have and learn anything else about, what kind of process they have for receiving donations. And the other thing that you can do is you can stay up to date on our events. So we have on dumpster days, we have repair cafes where it started in the Netherlands. And we are excited to have started those last year. We have a couple coming up here locally, and these webinars that you can engage with us wherever you are in the world. So with that, I am going to go ahead and hand it on over to Eliza.
All right. Thanks, Leslie. Okay. Let's see if I can get back to the share screen. All right. How's that looking? Thumbs up, Leslie.
Yep,
Can you see?
thumbs up. Yep.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Welcome. This is so exciting to have so many of you here from all over. Just a little bit about me before we begin. My name is Eliza Cantlay. I have lived in Kansas City for 12 years, but I am originally from New Jersey, although no accent. And I'm the owner of Simplicana, which is my home and office decluttering and organizing business. I've been operating that for 15 years. And when I am not organizing, I am an avid bird watcher. In fact, I co-lead one of the local groups here, Bird by Bird Kansas City, on birding walks around the metro. I'm often playing escape rooms with my husband. I'm involved in community theater. I'm planning my next scuba diving trip. And most of the time, I am just thinking obsessively about how I can protect wildlife and the planet. So I'm really excited to talk to you all today. And let's get right into it. Oh, hmm, there we go. Okay, so on January 1st of 2024, I woke up and I had not even gotten out of bed yet before I came up with this crazy challenge that I did, the 24 Eco Challenge. Um, and basically, I wanted to intentionally reduce my own consumerism by not buying new things and acquiring secondhand instead as much as I could. And by that, I am personally putting less stress on the planet's limited resources. So it was a year of consuming less for the love of the planet. Uh, and the challenge itself was to limit myself to acquiring only 24 new items in the year of 2024. And by acquiring, I do mean purchasing, but I also mean that if I take something for free that's new, that did count as well. So why would I do something like this? Well, number one, I love a good minimalist challenge. Minimalism is sort of a form of spirituality for me. And because of the upsurge in natural disasters, as a reminder that possessions are temporary, I personally feel more secure when I have fewer belongings to manage and worry about. Um, the second reason I did this challenge is because money was tight. Last year in September, my husband and I got married. Weddings are expensive. This challenge helped me from going too broke during an already very expensive year. And finally, and the most important reason as to why I did this challenge is because I love planet Earth and I love wildlife. And I'm a scuba diver. I've traveled around the world. I've had some really amazing encounters with wildlife. And as a result, I feel a fierce responsibility to be a worthy citizen of this planet. So I'm not going to talk about plastic too much because we could write a tome on all the problems with plastic, but I just want to do a quick overview because plastic is a big reason as to why I did this challenge. So the problems with plastic, well, number one, it's petroleum based. This means that is a fossil fuel emission, and actually 5% of fossil fuel emissions are from plastic production. Um, Plastic hurts 5 times. What I mean by this is it hurts in the extraction of it because it's a fossil fuel. It hurts in the production of it. It hurts in the transportation of it and the carbon emissions from that. It hurts in its use, which I'll talk about a bit about why it hurts us when and while we are using plastic. And it hurts in the disposal of it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the giant plastic Pacific Ocean patch where it's just miles and miles of garbage. They used to call it the big Pacific garbage patch, but actually it's more of everything else is biodegradable in that patch. It's really the plastic that remains and will remain for so long. And plastic ends up in the ocean. I see it as a scuba diver. I got this photo of it here on a beach. I mean, you do really see it everywhere. It also ends up in our bodies. We've seen data recently that they are finding microplastics in all of our organs, in breast milk, in blood, in all of our different tissues in the body. It is a problem. And we're also finding microplastics in places like Antarctic snow. They have actually tested the snow in Antarctica, and they are finding that plastic makes it all the way down there. And plastic never dies. You will see stats that sort of disagreed, say, plastic takes 500 years, 1,000 years to break down. But by breakdown, they really mean break into these tiny amounts that are really too small for us to clean out of our environment. And then it just lives on and on as microplastics. And finally, plastic recycling is a fallacy. You've got materials like tin, aluminum, and glass that are infinitely recyclable. Those can be recycled an infinite number of times and not lose their structural integrity, which is pretty great. It makes them great items to work with. Paper will recycle a few times and then it kind of degrades, but it is biodegradable. So it's sort of okay in that sense. And then plastic, you are lucky if you can get plastic to be recycled once and even twice. But other than that, it's useless. Like I said, I'm not going to go too far into this rabbit hole down with plastic, but I highly recommend the book Year of No Garbage by Eve O. Schaub. And I'm going to talk about that book a little bit later on in this presentation. So, like I said, in 2024, I limited myself to 24 new items. So, items, some of them got a pass. I didn't count them toward the limit. And those items were anything I acquired secondhand. I didn't count it. Anything that was zero waste in zero waste packaging. So, let's say I bought a package of biodegradable straws. Well, as long as it comes in packaging that is biodegradable, I didn't count it. Anything food, anything medical for ourselves or our dogs, I gave it a pass. I mean, if you walk into American grocery stores, everything is wrapped in plastic. It is something I would like to tackle in my own life eventually, but the fact that all food comes in plastic these days just seemed like too big of an obstacle this year. So I didn't count it this year, but I probably will in future experiments. Wild bird food, the food is fine. It usually comes in plastic containers, but we love our wild birds and we like to support them. And we have about 8 different bird feeders around the house. I gave it a pass. Medical items, Invisalign. I did have to get Invisalign last year. If I had counted this toward the challenge, I would have been done in about April because of all the plastic aligners. Luckily, my dentist has a recycling program for my Invisalign aligners, but for the sake of this challenge, I gave it a pass. We knew we would be rebuilding our back deck in 2024. And while we did secure some materials secondhand from places like Habitat for Humanity Restore, there were several things we had to buy new, gave him a pass. Any gifts I received, especially ones I didn't ask for, I gave it a pass. And work materials for my own job, since I'm a professional organizer, some of them are really difficult to find secondhand, like label tape, Velcro ties, white duct tape. I used other materials when I could, but otherwise, if I had to replace them, I let it go. So, the items that did count toward my limit, so new clothing, shoes, and accessories. Any non-medical toiletries and cosmetics. So, shampoo, lotion, makeup, all of it had to count if I bought it new. New home furnishings, decor, household cleaners, household supplies, like even toilet paper, I counted toward this challenge. Home improvement items other than the back deck. This was a year of do-it-yourself stuff with little breaks around the house. So items we had to buy that counted. Work materials that I knew would be easy to find secondhand, Sharpies, scissors. I counted them just because I knew I could get them secondhand. Any gifts that I bought for others, that counted. Any freebies I received, stickers or little samples of products, I counted those. Anything in plastic packaging, even if it was a compostable item, if it came in plastic, I counted it. And dog toys, I counted those too. A lot of those are made of synthetic materials. So for a challenge like this, it's important to keep track and have accountability. So I documented everything on a spreadsheet and I kept a tally of my points, which I will show you. And for every item over the 24 item limit, I chose a small consequence for myself. I had to pick an environmentally minded organization and donate $24 for each item that I went over by. Now, if money is tight, then an alternative idea is I could have picked up 24 pieces of garbage per item over the limit. And spoiler alert, I did exceed the 24 item limit this year. It was my first year doing the challenge, and I did that in early October. So we're going to explore that too. This is what my spreadsheet looked like. I listed the month and the item and how many points. You might see here that you might notice that there are half points for some of these items. Most of these were home improvement items that I split with my husband. We each paid half, and he was not doing the challenge, so I couldn't hold him accountable. But I took a half a point for my share in it. And you can see that come October is when I start to cross the line and go over the 24 items. But I balanced all of this with a donation each time to an eco-minded charity. So, what were the items that I acquired in 2024 that counted toward this challenge? Well, I won't talk about every single one, but here are some. So here is a scuba diving gear bag that I have wanted for 2 years. I have looked for it in many different places to try to get it secondhand. Couldn't find it. I treated myself. It counts as a point. Here's a grouping of freebies that I got with the facial I had before the wedding. I probably should have said no to those, but I didn't, so it's a point. Here are some fabric swatches for a bridesmaid's dress I wore, but these were all synthetic fabrics. They are plastic. They had to count. So then we got into April, May, and June. Some of the items here, a bridesmaid's dress I wore at my brother's wedding. Here I gave myself a negative point because I returned these fabric swatchers to the sender. So I retained that point for myself. For those of us who were lucky enough to see the eclipse in April, I bought myself a pair of eclipse glasses. No regrets there, but it did count toward the challenge. Because I did get married, I had like a hair and makeup trial, which came with, the single-use lip wand. I had to count that single-use plastic. Then we get into July, August, and September. And September is when our wedding was. So I'm actually pretty proud of myself that the number was not higher for this period in time. But, things like a dress I really loved, but made out of synthetic materials, false eyelashes I wore on my wedding day, those are definitely made of plastic. I gave my best friend, who was my bestie of honor, we had matching bracelets made out of recycled metal. That would have been fine, except it arrived in plastic. Same with this pretty little piece of art with the goldfinch. I gave that to a friend, totally paper-based, except the packaging was plastic. So I had to count it. And now here we get into the end of the year where I had one item, this little tour badge here for an escape room tour I did. That was my final. That was the 24th item. And then we get into the red zone, which is all these items that counted either for a point or half a point, but they all went over the 24 limit. And for those, I had to pay a penalty for all of them. I even counted my voting sticker because it was a plastic-based sticker, even though I was happy to wear that. Now, the organizations I chose to be benefited by my challenge for when I did have to pay the penalty fee, one is the Heartland Conservation Alliance, which is a local organization in Kansas City and one that is near and dear to my heart. Being a bird lover, I had to support Cornell Ornithology Lab. I use their Merlin app all the time to identify bird song. And then finally, the Coral Restoration Foundation. As a scuba diver, I felt really good about supporting them as part of this challenge. And of course, doing this for a year, I noticed a few trends about myself and also where the tricky spots were. So for trends, I noticed of the 24 items, 6 of them were home improvement items, which really told me it was a do-it-yourself kind of fixer-up year for our house. I thought that was interesting. 7 cosmetic items really struck me as funny because I'm not someone who typically purchases or uses a lot of cosmetics. However, because I got married this year, there was some makeup involved. So that was kind of funny. I'm expecting that number to go down this coming year as I do the challenge again. 10 of the items of my 24 were freebies. I thought that was pretty interesting too. Tricky spots, always freebies. some I didn't ask for. It is amazing how how many freebies come with stuff, especially in the mail, that we just don't ask for and often don't end up using. Cyber Monday, that was definitely a bit of an Achilles heel for me. There were two items I purchased that I definitely didn't need until 2025, but the lure of the sale and the idea that I probably wouldn't get a better deal on it caused me to pull the trigger a little earlier than I would have liked. The holidays, I actually did pretty well for the holidays. Almost every gift I gave in 2024 because of this challenge was secondhand or a monetary gift, experiential, or handmade. And I actually ended up only giving one physical gift. Let's see if I can find it here. So, this beaded purse here, my two sisters-in-law approached me and said, "Hey, we should get this for my stepmom, Rachel." And I was like, yeah, I can't be the one who says no to that and doesn't participate. So that was actually the only item I bought as a holiday gift this year that was new. So didn't do too badly on this. All right, let me just take a little sip of water here. Okay, so I am doing this challenge again. I have already started for 2025 with a few adjustments. I'm happy to say that as of January 15th, I have no new items yet. Still have a clean slate for the year. But this year, I'm going to be better at politely refusing freebies. The fact that I had 10 freebies on my list last year really made me think about that. A lot of it is I get caught up in the moment wanting to be polite. So I'm going to be better about that this time. Another thing is I can talk to friends and family in advance about holiday gifts. Even though I didn't count gifts that were given to me, I still received quite a few gifts that were new, wrapped in plastic. I can do a better job about communicating my wants in advance, and I did have a wish list, which really helped. So the gifting situation was better than in, say, Christmas and Hanukkah of 2023, but it could still be better. I can communicate better. Also, I will continue to send companies cheerful emails asking for change, especially when it comes to packaging materials and surprise freebies. So, I ordered some bracelets this year that should have been zero waste. They were made of recycled metals, but they came in plastic packaging. So I sent a cheerful email to that creator on Etsy actually asking, hey, like, I love that you do recycled metals. Do you think next time you could wrap it in paper or something that would be compostable? Always sending an email is good. It's good for businesses to hear that kind of feedback. A new thing I'm doing this year that I didn't do last year is on my Instagram account for this challenge. I started a daily practice called One Act, One Planet, which is where I post usually in the morning just a photo and a description of one thing I do every day to help the planet. So if you're on Instagram, and I'll give you my handle at the end of this, I hope you follow along and are inspired to do your own. So, because I was so limited last year about buying and acquiring new things, I got really good at checking out my secondhand and zero waste resources first. I always tried to find something secondhand or zero waste before purchasing or acquiring something new. So, my absolute number one best resources for this one was the Buy Nothing group. I'm not sure if this is an international thing yet. I think it is, but the idea behind the Buy Nothing group, it is Facebook based, but I believe there's also an app for this. You join your local group. So I'm in the South Kansas City group, and you can list items that you want to get rid of for free. And the rule is everything has to be free. You're not allowed to ask for money, and there's no haggling or bartering for it. And you can also ask for things you need, which is something I did a lot of this last year. So if I needed coffee filters or compost bin liners or a toaster oven, I asked for it on the Buy Nothing group. And very often there was someone within my little neighborhood who had one and was more than happy to share. So that's the Buy Nothing group. The other massive resource that I used is my local refillery shop soap refill station. There's probably about 5 of these in Kansas City now, but because I'm close to Waldo, this is just the one that I go to. I'm going to talk a little bit more about refillery shops in a bit, but I'm really excited about them. So here, Simplicana, this is my own logo for my organizing business. And the reason I put that here is because a lot of my organizing clients, many who are repeat clients who I've known and have been organizing with for years, learned about my challenge and got really excited. And they were very happy to support me by providing me with excess items that they had in their own homes that they had, overbought. So that it was great to just get freebies from work that I needed without creating new stuff in the world. Scraps KC, this is one of our local creative reuse centers, which is a broad term. And I can talk more about creative reuse centers in a bit, but this is where I got my work supplies secondhand. So donated Sharpies, scissors, containers, laundry baskets, things I use a lot to declutter and organize homes. I could get most of them from Scraps KC. Like I said, we rebuilt our back deck last year. And so we were going over to Habitat for Humanity's Restore for a lot of the hardware for that. Style Encore is one of our many consignment shops here in Kansas City. This is my favorite one. I take my clients' clothing cast-offs here to sell for them, but I also shop here myself and buy clothing here. And the great thing about shopping for clothing secondhand is that it doesn't matter what brand it is. If it's secondhand, it is sustainable, which is terrific. Now, Poshmark, a lot of you have probably heard of Poshmark. This one is similar. It's clothing consignment, but it's online based. So if you have a very specific tricky item you need, it's probably going to be on Poshmark, and you can search by your shoe size and your style and preferred brands. That was a big resource for me this year. And then finally, I put a little logo here for Savers Thrift because it's one that's close to me and I shop there a lot, but really just shopping at any thrift store. I shopped at a variety this year and got a ton of great secondhand scores. And let's talk about my secondhand scores. So I love athleisure here. The problem with athleisure clothing is that it is almost all synthetic material, meaning it is clothing made out of plastic. Not the healthiest, even when secondhand, but at least because it's secondhand, I was not, you know, uh, creating it new and creating new waste in the world. So, and they have terrific stuff. So definitely recommend shopping secondhand for clothes. This here is, these new silicone Ziplocs. Someone gifted those to me. I love them. We don't have to use the plastic ones anymore. Then we went to Restore and we got materials for our deck that had been donated secondhand. Didn't have to buy those new. Um, this is part of the women's items that Leslie and I were chatting about in the beginning. This is period underwear. If you're not sure what it is, I'm going to ask that you Google it. But this is great. I actually scored these on the Buy Nothing group as well. I mean, hey, why not normalize it, right? The person I got it from, said they were washed and clean, but of course I went ahead and washed it anyway, just to make darn sure about that. Some other scores I got on my local Buy Nothing group were coffee filters, laundry detergent, more laundry detergent. This obscure little light bulb we have for a strange living room fixture in our house. I posted a picture on the Buy Nothing group thinking no one would have this. I'm like, hey, no one has this kind of light bulb, do they? Sure enough, someone in my neighborhood had 6 of them and was dying to get rid of them. Compost bags. We got a toaster oven on our Buy Nothing group that works just like it's new. Didn't have to spend any money on it and didn't create a new item in the world. Got some birthday candles never opened from a thrift store that I used in my menorah this year for Hanukkah. Uh, Drawstring produce bags. I don't have to use those plastic produce bags in the grocery store anymore. Uh, I attended one event this year that required glitter and sparkly makeup, and that's just not something I really own or want to own. But I did ask on the Buy Nothing group and received. And after I attended the event, I gifted all the rest to the woman who did my hair and makeup trial for my wedding. which she loves. She's going to use that daily. I would have used it maybe once every year. More items for the wedding that I scored from the thrift store, like this beverage jar. And then finally, one of my Simplicana clients donated this solar string of lights that we strung on our temple outside of our house. So that was pretty cute. Okay, so refilleries. So this is a great new thing. This is a great new trend happening. I love Soap Refill Station in Waldo if you're here in Kansas City, but all five of the ones I've visited in the metro are great. If you are elsewhere in the country or in the world, all you have to do is type in local refillery shop. So basically, in every refillery shop, you will walk in and they have these walls lined with these giant containers of shampoo, conditioner, body wash, lotion, household cleaners, and you bring your own bottle and you refill it. So you're preventing new virgin plastic from being formed. Very eco-friendly. In almost all of these refillery shops, there will be a little nook like this, a donation station where people donate their cleaned out empty bottles. So if you forget your own container, you can just swipe one from the donation station and fill up. I love that these refillery shops always measure, they weigh your container when it's empty so that they're not charging you for the weight of the item. And then they take a weight at the end when it's filled, and you are only charged for the exact amount that's in your container. So it's a more financially efficient way to shop as well as an eco-friendly one. And here are some fun items I got this year from shopping at my local refillery shop. I tried my very first lotion bar, which I love, very good for winter and dry hands. I took this plastic container that once held honey in my house and filled it with conditioner. I bought a little soap saver bag, which is made out of plant material. I can just compost it on the day that I'm done with it. But hopefully it's good for several years worth of uses. This dish brush I got is just made of wood, metal, and plant bristles, totally biodegradable. And then I brought in this fun little jar down here and I filled it with these little tooth tabs, which you bite into and brush your teeth. So fun. So this challenge that I did was about the acquisition of items. It was about how they entered my household and my life, but I also always like to be mindful about how I release items when I'm done with them, how I declutter. So, first and foremost, can't go wrong with an organization like Reuseful. I mean, type in the item you're getting rid of and all your local charities show up. I mean, it's just the coolest concept ever, and I'm so grateful that Leslie developed this. Also, the Buy Nothing group, I talked about this before for acquiring items. It's also a great way to get rid of items. A lot of my organizing clients donate baby items that I legally cannot give to the thrift store. For liability or legal reasons, but you can list it on the Buy Nothing group, and there is almost always going to be a mother who's going to want those items or a father. The refillery station, I talked about these as a great way to get items, but also if you're looking to offload containers, especially plastic ones that won't recycle very well, take it to your local refillery store and put it in the donation station. Here in Kansas City, we have two creative reuse collectives called Magpie and Scraps. These are terrific for donating arts and crafts materials, office supplies. Scraps has a homeless outreach program, so I'm often taking my clients' donations there for like camping supplies, toiletries. Magpie works a lot with local artists. So if you Google Creative Reuse Collective or Creative Reuse Center in your town, you are going to probably find some good stuff. Almost every city now has some kind of composting business. We love Compost Collective KC. You can set your compost right on the curb, and on trash and recycling day, they'll just pick up your compost, especially because 40% of food gets wasted in the United States. We love that composting is becoming a bigger trend. I talked a little bit earlier about Restore, how that's a great place to get decking materials for us, but really any kind of hardware, any kind of remodel you're doing, that's a great resource to get secondhand supplies. Blessings Abound is a thrift store we have here in Kansas City that takes anything that your typical thrift store would take. However, they also have a food pantry and they also have a scrap metal recycling program, which I love. I don't know of many other places in our metro that have that. Uh, Over on this side, we have Trashy. This is a new one I tried this year, and I really like it so far. So Trashy sends you a take back bag and you can recycle your old beat up clothing in it. So it's it's good not to give thrift stores clothing that has holes, that's stained, that's pilled, because it typically will just end up in the landfill, sometimes in the ocean even. It's better to encourage clothing that's sort of beat up to go toward fiber recycling. And this company, Trashy, does just that. So you just fill up the bag they mail you, seal it up, send it back. Super easy. And I think they give you discounts or some kind of, reward points for doing so. TerraCycle. This is a big nationwide program now, and this actually is based in Trenton, New Jersey, which is 15 minutes from where I grew up. But this is a great program for recycling plastic that seems like it's not recyclable at all. Think about children's toys. Not the type of plastic you'd put in the recycling bin, right? TerraCycle will recycle that. Snack bags, snack pouches. I mean, really almost any type of plastic you can think of, as long as it's clean, can go in a TerraCycle bin. You can also get private ones for your own home, although they are pretty pricey. So instead, I would recommend going on their website and looking at the directory, free drop-offs near you. Then we have Midwest Recycling Center. This is where I take all of my and my clients' old electronics to recycle, old TVs, even CDs, DVDs, cables, all the electronics, anything with a cord or battery can be recycled here because e-waste is actually becoming one of the biggest forms of waste in the US. So it is important to recycle that. Casey Pet Project. I love this place for all types of pet donations. I donate food, medicine, toys, crates, all kinds of things here, but every metro and city and town will have their own pet project. I even donate beat up holy towels here because they will use it for cleaning. So yeah, and the empty prescription medicine bottles, all the pet shelters seem to love those. They reuse those. So that's a great resource. Style Encore, I talked a little bit about this before, but any clothing consignment shop is a great resource for those upscale clothes in really good shape. And then lastly, here in Kansas City, we have Prospero's Books and Media. They will happily take your books and DVDs and they'll pay you a little bit of money for it. Half Price Books is another nationwide program that will do this. My point in all of this is there is a home for almost anything you are considering getting rid of. So always check in one of these resources before going to the landfill. Now, my challenge this year, even though food was not counted, I did have some fun with seeing how I could reduce waste when it came to food. So 2024 is the first year that I ever tried bulk shopping. We have that in a few grocery stores here. Sprouts is a big one. But basically, I took my own container in, I took the weight of it, and then I went to the bulk section. What was this? Chocolate chips. And then I would fill up the jar with as many chocolate chips as I wanted, and I would just pay for the weight of whatever I wanted. I brought in my own jars so I didn't have to, pull plastic containers they had there at the store. So I reduced waste that way. One purchase I made this year that was fantastic is I bought about 4 of these tins that are leak proof. So you can even hold them upside down with soup in them and they will not leak. And anytime I went into a restaurant, I tried to remember, and I think I had a 70% success rate with remembering to bring them in, but I would bring these tins in and ask for my leftovers to go in the tins. They're great. No plastic, no styrofoam. And then finally, I spent a chunk of time this year looking for a reusable coffee cup that was totally plastic free. Sometimes you can find those stainless steel ones, but the lid is still plastic. That's a bummer. But I did find this company, Joko, which is actually Australian, that makes these silicone and glass coffee cups. I just take it into my coffee shop, ask them to put my drink directly in there. No waste created. So, you've listened patiently about my challenge. So, what if you're considering creating your own eco challenge? And I hope you do. And if you do, I hope you tell me about it so maybe I can take the challenge. But I have some tips on how to do that. So, first of all, figure out what matters most to you. And there are so many environmentally minded ways to look at things right now. There's the zero waste movement, there's plastic reduction, minimalism, carbon emissions, sustainable fashion, eliminating food waste, the slow food movement, helping pollinators. I mean, pick your favorite things and create your challenge based on this. So for the 24 Eco Challenge, I focused on plastic reduction, minimalism, even a little frugality. Next, create a SMART goal for your challenge. So SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Here's how I did that with my challenge. My SMART goal was specific. It was to reduce the creation of new plastic. It was measurable. I came up with a 24 item limit. It was achievable. 24 items was mostly realistic for my own life, even with a wedding this year, or at least I got pretty close to that goal. My challenge was relevant. The challenge makes sense with the why of my purpose, the plastic reduction, minimalism, and frugality. And lastly, my challenge was time bound. I chose 1 year to get all these things done. The next thing you're going to want to think about if you're making your own eco challenge is accountability. So you may, like me, want to create a small consequence if you like to have some stakes. So for me, if I went over 24 items, I had to pay $24 per excess item to an eco-minded charity of choice. Having a little bit of a consequence is good for accountability. And lastly, make an impact. Tell everyone about your challenge. I want to know about your challenge. Please post it on social media. You know, your enthusiasm and creativity is contagious and it matters. Share your brilliance and sense of care with all of us. And I hope you follow my challenge if you're on Instagram. My handle is 24 Eco Challenge. And just remember that with environmentalism, you know, everyone doing it imperfectly is better than a handful doing it perfectly. I wasn't perfect. I didn't make my goal of 24 items, but I'm motivated to do it again this year to see if I can do it. If you're curious about other eco challenges, here are some good ones in existence that I love. Project 333 is something I have done probably 3 or 4 times. It was created by a woman named Courtney Carver. And it's all about selecting 33 pieces of clothing and wearing just from that combination of 33 for 3 months. It was pretty great. Um, for a long time, this mason jar challenge was really big. You would see on Instagram people saying, all of my garbage from 1 year fits in this mason jar. I'm not quite there yet, but I mean, what a great challenge. There was this book that came out, I think within the last few years, called The Year Without a Purchase. The man who wrote it was a little more into the family reconnection and frugality aspects and not so much the eco one, but you see how a year without a purchase could easily apply to helping the environment. And then two books I highly recommend. Zero Waste Home. The zero waste community considers this like the Bible of all zero waste things. I mean, this woman is probably the only person I've ever heard of who is purely living like 100% zero waste lifestyle. Not that the rest of us should feel pressured for perfection, but what she's created is pretty inspiring. And then finally, this book I talked about earlier, Year of No Garbage, where Eve Oshab and her husband and two girls spent an entire year where they were not allowed to place a single thing in the landfill. Reading about their journey and how to do that was pretty inspiring. And then for my final thought, I want to talk about, are we fixing a symptom or are we eliminating a problem at its root? And for me, I wanted to, fixing a symptom would have been that I keep consuming and buying new things as much as I want, as long as I, recycle and am good. But to me, that wasn't enough. You know, to me, what eliminating a problem at the root looks like is reducing my own consumerism, making it so that that item is not created in the first place. Then asking for change and holding companies accountable. And then lastly, legislation, like supporting a plastic bag ban, so supporting a styrofoam ban. I mean, these are the things that, we don't have to think about recycling as much as long as we fix the problem at its root of plastic production. And finally, I hope we all keep in touch. I have documented this challenge on Instagram over here at 24 Eco Challenge. I'm posting every day. I'm posting my daily One Act, One Planet. I hope to follow each other there. Also, my home organizing business is very eco-conscious, and I hope you follow me there too. It's called Simplicana. We try to divert as many of our clients' donations from the landfill as we can. And now that it's the end, I just want to say a big thank you to Leslie for having me on here. And also for those of you in Kansas City, I will be at the Repair Cafe on January 25th, and I hope to see you there.
Wow, this is amazing, Eliza. Thank you so much.
Thank
And I
you.
think we had one question from Leah about the Buy Nothing group. Do you use the Buy Nothing group on Facebook, or are you using the app itself?
Great question. I use the one on Facebook.
Perfect. Yeah, I was excited. The cup, I saw your post on Instagram about the Joko cup, and I was like, because I had the same challenge, right? We want to do some um laser engraved reusable coffee cups, and I searched and searched and searched, and I did, I would find some that had maybe bamboo lids or something, but it was super hard. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. Um, and I think that you really you really level set it for us, which is, you don't have to be perfect, right?
No.
Trying your best is good. Um, I put a book in the chat. Bob Grove, who is with the Climate Council GKC, wrote a book, and it includes a plastic-free shopping challenge, grocery shopping challenge. So
Oh, great. Yeah, that's my next mountain to conquer is the food and groceries.
yes. Um, so Christina, yes, we'll I can send the chat out too. That's a great point. I'll include the chat, and uh we'll make sure that information then gets shared. Yeah, how long did I mean, you mentioned that you woke up and wanted to start this, on January 1, but how long had you been noodling this over?
Good question. I mean, I want to say it's kind of been a lifelong thing. I think being an organizer and working in so many people's homes and being aware of how differently everyone lives and seeing how much waste goes out. I mean, I think I was just wanting to do something. I'm not sure for how long, but for a long time, I've been wanting to make a bigger impact by consuming less, but also when I do consume, trying to go to plastic free as much as possible.
And I'm personally interested in those takeout containers. If you have a link for those,
I do.
that would be amazing.
I could send the link as a follow-up
Yeah,
to
that
send with
sounds
everyone
great.
along with the
Yeah.
PDF.
hmm
Great.
Um, And then Leah's wondering about the TerraCycle locations. I,
Oh
I
yeah.
think I don't know if you have insight into that, Eliza. Um, she's confused by the website.
So at this point, there are not a ton of drop-off locations in Kansas City. There are the one I do for empty beauty products like cosmetics and toiletry bottles. There's one in Nordstrom. But otherwise, I think we're waiting for Magpie Creative Reuse Collective to establish a storefront, and I think they're going to have several drop boxes. I know Scraps KC used to do a big TerraCycle thing, and they stopped. I'm not sure why. For now, I've been using my home TerraCycle box, but it would be ideal to have a free drop-off place instead.
Yeah, and Julia, the recording will be sent out to your email. That's where we'll send it. Um, Christina, that has a question. Do you feel there's a way to adapt this type of challenge for education? So, or elementary, middle school, or high school?
Oh, interesting. You mean to get children interested in it?
Yeah, to do the challenge, maybe like, is there a way to kind of make it, doable for kids in
I
general?
could I could see an angle on it where, if you're doing like zero waste or secondhand school supplies, that you go to a resource like your local creative reuse center, or even just put something out on the Buy Nothing group like, hey, I need 3 ring binders, notebooks. I mean, there is excess in our country. And so, there's always people willing to give things out. We just have to kind of connect to the communities. But yeah, I could see some kind of challenge forming where, what percentage of your school supplies can you get that were obtained secondhand as opposed to, you just went to the office supply store and got it. I'm not sure how you would track it, but
I think there's ways to do it at home. Like you can do a waste audit in your home. So if you just Google that, home waste audit,
yeah,
um, that is something that maybe kids, they influence up. So effectively, I think. And so doing that at home. And then we did a TerraCycle, not TerraCycle, sorry, Next Trex does a plastic recycling challenge where you get the plastic bags and film as we're trying to wean ourselves away from plastic, of course. Inevitably, you get something and like you can't get away from it. So, but what I think that those challenges do is really shine a light on just how much plastic we end up collecting in our household. And if we're not sending it to a recycling type of thing where like trucks makes decking and plastic benches and those sorts of things.
right.
And so as we're working toward, eliminating plastic packaging, you know, it it is certainly illuminating to do a challenge like that because um, you really start to figure out how quickly you amass a pretty significant amount of that stuff, and I think it makes us think differently about our choices.
Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention Trex. That's available in most grocery stores and Targets around here as just a drop-off bin for plastic bags to recycle.
Yeah.
Trex is
Yep.
great.
Who else has a question? Anybody? We have just like 1 or 2 more minutes. Yeah, and small actions can make a big difference. We just collectively we can do great things. Um, yes, Manisha, happy to connect with you. I will drop well, you'll get my email when I follow up with the recording. So just reach back out. Um, and with that, any last thoughts anybody has? I think it's really great that you counted, even if you got something, as a gift, you didn't buy it. If it came in plastic, like, oops, like sorry, that counts.
Yeah. A lot of things are greenwashed where they're selling you some
Hmm.
product that really is good, but it almost always seems to come in plastic packaging. So that's when I like to email the companies and cheerfully ask them for different packaging.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing I'll mention is one thing that I'm um, starting to look deeper into is waste colonialism. You kind of mentioned that our clothing can end up on the beaches of the global south, and so even when we're thinking about the bailing up the textiles and sending them to recyclers, like that, they're not always going into a process that is actually good. And so to really be mindful of reducing on the front end, and things like capsule wardrobe and stuff like that that can really, I think you kind of touched on that with that 33 challenge. So just thinking about our clothing, our true clothing life cycle, because just because it's out of our sight doesn't mean that it's necessarily being sustainably processed. So we're a minute over, and I appreciate everyone being here. Take a look at our website to keep up with our future webinars. We've got two a month going forward. So we hope to see you again. Thanks, everyone. Thank you,
Thanks,
Eliza.
everyone.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.